It's another beautiful Tuesday morning. How are you doing? Thank you for tuning in to Parenting Tuesday right here on Family TV and on Family Radio 316. My name is James Okumu. Karibu sana. Parenting. Oh my goodness. In this generation, parenting is becoming more and more complicated. But you know what? There are solutions, and that is what this show is about, talking about solutions. I don't know whether you've been concerned. Lately we've been seeing a lot of violence in our schools. Children burning down schools, children getting physical, fighting with the teachers, and it's quite worrying. A lot of indiscipline, and that's what we want to focus on this morning. The Bible has got specific roles and responsibilities that parents have towards their children, and discipline is one of them. And even as we get into that discussion, I was just thinking back, huko nyuma, when I was young. I was not born a pastor. When I was young and mischievous, thinking I know everything, and I was sharing earlier on radio that I can't remember my dad ever spanking me. I can't. In fact, I've only seen my dad spank one person, my cousin, and that image remained etched in my mind till today. My dad had a look. He had a look. He would look at you and not say anything. And those eyes and that look, my wife keeps telling me sometimes I have that look. Even my kids tell me, hey, there's another look you give us and we know there's fire coming. So my dad had that look, and he would look at you and you would know you've crossed the line, and you would start repenting with sackcloth and ashes. My mom, on the other hand, oh my goodness, I can't even remember how many times my mom spanked me. My mom worked on me big time. Over the edges, oh my goodness, big time, big time. I'll never forget this. My mom was sharing this with me last holidays when I had gone home, and I know she's watching. And she had said there's a time we had gone home, and we had gone, I don't know what we had done out there in Shags, and she got the report. And she said that day we came home, and she was about to spank me, and I lifted up my hand to protect myself, and she realized this is not a boy anymore. This is now a young man. Imambo ya spanking, we need to find another solution. And so the discipline changed from that point on. Why am I telling you all these stories? I'm telling you these stories to ask you a question. The question is, when you think back to your childhood, who was the disciplinarian? Was it your dad or was it your mom? Ama kwenyu ilikuwa double barrel. Both of them were disciplinarians. Your mom works on your behind, and then dad comes home in the evening and he's given the testimony, and he comes back and he works on your behind. I know people who both dad and mom were disciplinarians, and it was kind of tough. Some it's the mother, some it's the dad, some it's neither. So talk to me and tell me your experience when you were growing up. Who was the disciplinarian? Was it dad or your mom? Interesting SMSs coming through this morning. Moses, all the way from Qatar, you say, good morning. Nakuambia, for me, it was my grandmother. She is still there. Na alikuwa ananigonga na feel hii sasa ni chuki. I'm telling you, oh my goodness. Thanks for sharing that. Joe from Umoja, you say, for me, all the parents were not a joke on me, even though I was a little cheeky. Dad was the non-joke disciplinarian. Look at how you turned out today. Ruth is saying, my mom dealt with the issue on the spot, and she was ever creative. I would want more information about that creativity. Talk to me. This morning, we get to hang out with two amazing people to help us get into this discussion. I have Barnabas Achoki. Barnabas Achoki is a pastor, and he is a family and marriage coach. Barnabas, karibu sana.
Asante, Pastor James.
Karibu, it's good to have you on the show today. We also have Tabitha Ogango. Tabitha is not new to us. I've hosted her before. Even Pastor Achoki, I've hosted him before. Tabitha is passionate about education and teaching. She is a mother, and she's also passionate about families. Tabitha, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Pastor. Very well.
Karibuni sana. Maybe I'll begin by asking you the same question I'm asking everybody. Tabitha, who was the disciplinarian in your home when you were growing up? Was it dad or mom?
My mom. My mom and her sisters. Then they parented us, all of them together.
Yes.
So my mom and her sisters. My dad was the nice one.
What about you, Pastor Barnabas?
But it was my mother. My mother is the one who disciplined me. But my dad was feared. So I didn't want to land in his hands.
Okay.
Yeah, we feared him. He was rarely there, but you didn't want anything to be upscale to him.
Wow. What do you think, Pastor Barnabas, when you hear all these stories of what's going on in our schools. It's mostly boys' schools and a bit of mixed schools, but mostly it's boys' schools. The violence, burning down dormitories, fighting with the teachers. When you hear these stories, what goes through your mind?
Thank you, Jemo. I think there's a lot happening, especially with this COVID situation. We have to realize that these children have come from almost our whole year of freedom and just being at home. And so now going back to school, there's an adjustments to be done. We also have to understand there is a bit of post-stress traumatic disorder in the sense of just coming out of the COVID. They have, many of them maybe have seen the situations at home. Many parents have lost their jobs, so there's anxiety in the homes, which we sometimes don't realize also trickles down to these young people. And so they're coming back to school with all these many things. They don't know what to expect, coming back together in the dormitories. And so there's a lot of things, stress and other things going on in them. Plus, you have to remember that they're coming back and the exams are in a short time to come. And so all that together just builds. There's a lot of tension building within them. And so maybe they find it, they are releasing their stress in that way.
Tabitha, I'm just wondering, the whole issue of burning down a dormitory or trying to fight with a teacher seems a little bit too extreme for me. I'm just wondering, for somebody who's not been violent or exposed to violence acts, is that even something they would consider?
Oh, well, okay, I would say no. But you see, our society is a very violent society.
Oh, okay.
So the children may not have experienced it in the home or in the school before, but when they watch the news, and you know they are on the net, they are everywhere.
Yes.
You know, they see how people express their anger, you know, and they see all sorts of ways of expressing that anger. And so in a situation where they're in a tight corner and they are angry, you know, they will think of the best way to frustrate the oppressor. You know, so it's extreme, but in terms of how people will express themselves when they are put in a corner, you can never tell. But what I'm saying is that in our society, there's a lot of violence and a lot of it, we are consuming it through the media. You know, husband has killed wife and children. You know, this, you know, internationally, the shootouts and everything. So we may not be doing it here, but then people know that when I'm in a tight corner, that's an option.
Okay. I'm just wondering, do boys and girls handle this kind of situations differently? Looking at the fact that a good number of the schools that are having these issues are boys' schools.
No, I mean, girls talk. You know, I mean, one of the things that makes girls a little more safer, not just in school, but even in life, is that girls talk. You know, they'll find a way to talk it through, to cry it out, you know. You know, so the expression of anger to reach burning a school, I mean, now for girls, that would be another level. But you see, boys have been trained to bottle up, you know, to man up, to I don't know, do what, you know. So sometimes what they cannot speak, they will find a way to act it out. And when they speak now in their little corners, they're thinking, how do we do it without anybody knowing? You know, and that's now what we see.
Okay. Mr. Barnabas, when we talk about discipline and disciplining our children for that fact, what exactly are we talking about? Where does this begin?
When it comes to discipline, this begins in the home. I think sometimes we are expecting too much from the school authorities and the teachers, but discipline must begin at home, and it must begin when the children are young, because by the time they're getting to their teenage years, some discipline must have been instilled in them from the home. So it is a parent's responsibilities to discipline their children. And discipline here is by training, teaching the children, instructing the children, and making them suffer the consequences of bad or wrong behavior. But on top of that is based on a relationship that the parents have with their children. I think there's one of the callers there said that they were disciplined by their grandmother, lakini ilikuwa ni hasira.
Yes.
So again, it's how we do it is very, very, very important. Yes, how we do it. Because if you do it again, and I know some of us grew up with our parents disciplining us, but some of that discipline was really
child abuse.
I mean, yes, it's a child abuse. Yes,
Yeah.
and so again, it can end up being the other way around. So coming back to what Tabitha even shared, some of that violence could even be as a result of that wrong discipline. Because if there's been, if the child has been tortured and has been beaten out of anger, so he displaces or translates that anger now to someone else. It could be to the siblings or now going back to school and the students, and that can end up even in some of these things that we are seeing.
Okay, I think you've brought up a very interesting issue because, just like you've said, some of us went through some serious discipline, which could be looked at as child abuse. And because we went through that, we made a vow with ourselves that when we get our children, we will not do that to them. And so I find we have a generation of parents who've gone to the other extreme, where now there's no discipline. It's the children who are running our homes and running our lives. Tabitha, I don't know what you think about that, because I've been to a supermarket and a young guy, probably about 7 years, had taken the mother hostage. And I'm thinking, just give me this boy for 2 minutes, I'll sort you out. I mean, he was rolling on the floor because he wanted something and the mother was saying no. Almost the whole supermarket came to a standstill. So Tabitha, what do you think about this other extreme that we've seen parents go to, where you don't want to discipline your child because when you think back to what you went through, I'll not put my child through that?
Yeah, I think, like Pastor also mentioned, that's a reaction to that abusive childhood that they had, and it's a wrong reaction, because now letting their child loose, I don't want my child to suffer what I suffered. They don't realize that then those children will actually suffer much more than they think they suffered, because an indisciplined child grows up to become an indisciplined person who cannot fit in anywhere. So they might be as smart as anything, as gifted as anything, but that indiscipline will just set them up for failure. So no extreme is good, but by the way, if I was to be wrong, I will be wrong on the side of being tough. Because as a parent, there is the love, there is the care, there is what I do for my children that should, if I get that right, and that's what got it right with our parents. Some of them really, what they did, we should have been suing them. But when later you look at it, you realize it was done from a position of love and not knowing better.
Okay.
But the modern parent has read too much psychology, and now psychology is running the homes, and now we are in trouble.
Okay. Shortly, we'll talk about there's been a conversation about the cane being reintroduced back to our schools. I would want to find out what you think about that, Tabitha, because I know you're very passionate about education. It is Parenting Tuesday on Family Radio 316 and Family TV, 16 minutes after 8. We are talking about discipline and our role as parents when it comes to disciplining our children. If you have any questions for us, 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. And my question to you is, who was the disciplinarian in your family? Was it your father or your mother? Interesting comments coming through. Nancy says, Pasi, for us, it was both parents. Personally, it was child abuse. I have marks on my body out of my mother beating me. She would beat me, then take me to hospital. Unfortunately, my brother rebelled against our tough discipline because he took it as hate. Now he is a hopeless fellow. Oh, my goodness, that is so sad. That is so sad. Another one here saying, this one is Koi from Kabete. Koi says, the worst one was the one that was postponed. My mom used to look at us when there were guests staying over. She would widen her nose at you and you would know trouble is approaching. Then on the side, she would tell you, wait until the 27th when the guests leave. I'm telling you, from that point on, everything tasted sour until the due day. Then my dad would whip you with a leather belt, my mom with a muiko, and then she would pour on you cold water. Oh, my goodness. You see, you turned out good. Though you're not that extreme, you also don't spare the cane either. Those are extreme, right? Where you leave marks on your children.
Yes.
I think that's extreme. That's extreme. Tabitha Ogango and Barnabas Achoki, our guest this morning. Now, Tabitha, back to you. The whole issue of the cane being reintroduced to our schools. What's your opinion as somebody passionate about education?
Well, for me, a cane in an abuser's hand is very dangerous. And I don't have a problem with the cane. The problem is who is using it, and how are they using it? When are they using it? So for me, in the school system, I would say a big no, because I have, when we do ministry out there, I have come across teachers that are, they are traumatized or they are angry. By the way, many teachers in this country did not want to be teachers. They ended up there because they failed.
Yes.
So they are so frustrated. And then with the demands in the schools, I have seen teachers, children that have been really messed up, and sometimes when you look at it, this is a teenager, what they are doing is not really out of context for a teenager, but then a teacher has taken it beyond. Maybe they had a tiff, maybe the parent of that child spoke to them badly.
Yeah.
For me, in the school, the cane is dangerous, just because who is using it? Yeah. And if I were to put back the cane in the school, for me, it would be very clear who is using it, why are they using it, when are they using it, and not everybody in the school can cane.
Yeah.
Not everybody, because many teachers will cane at the point of anger.
Yeah.
Why are you talking to me like that? You looked at, so that way, man.
And I think,
the poor child will be tamalizwa bana.
Yes, Tabitha, I think it's also dangerous, and also Pastor Choki, you can tell me what you think about this. I think it's dangerous also in this day and age, because we are seeing a generation of young people who are not afraid to hit back. We've had cases even in the local dailies of children killing their own parents, fighting.
Yes.
So I'm imagining a situation like that in our schools. Pastor Barnabas, I don't know what you think. And even as you answer that, is this really the solution to what we are seeing in our schools?
Thank you, James. And I like how Tabitha has put it. It's just matters who's on whose hands the cane is. And I think she's put it very well. Some of these teachers, is true. They ended up in that profession. It wasn't their profession by choice. They just ended up being, that's the course they did, walitaka kazi, wakapata hilo kazi. So they may not do it in the proper way. Again, they may be frustrated. In fact, I keep saying this, two professions that need to be highly paid in this nation.
Yeah.
The doctors and the teachers.
Yes.
James, if you go to the village, if you ask your dad, their days, the most respected person in the village was a teacher.
Yes.
In fact, if you remember, the Swahili say you should baisikili ya mwalimu. Mwalimu is the one who used to drive in the village. He's the one who rode the bicycle in the village. So there was a sense of respect. In fact, there are people who are called, in my mother tongue, he said Japonji, or teacher.
Yes.
He's a respectable term. But that has now been downgraded. And so there's a lot of frustration. And these teachers, you don't want them to be the ones landing on our children.
Yeah.
Coupled with that, I think the teaching profession needs to be coupled together with counseling, in the sense that they need to know the psychology and understand the stages of where the children are. Most of these children are in boarding schools are teenagers. And in teenage, there are a lot of things happening. They want to be seen. So you see, if you spank the child, sometimes the student, sometimes you're also affecting his self-esteem, especially if you're in a mixed school like Tabitha and I were. If you are, you want to be a hero there as a boy, and then you're spanked in front of these girls.
Yeah.
It can lead to some retaliation and some reaction that can be now dangerous. So I think it's important to be very, very careful who disciplines and in what conditions. In fact, the caning should be as a last resort, having gone through whatever other things need to be taken through. So I think there has to be a proper structure in terms of discipline and who should discipline and how that discipline should be carried out.
Okay. Back to the whole issue of teaching and now bringing it back home to the parents, Tabitha. You know, we are supposed to teach our children and to discipline them. I'm just wondering, can you discipline where you have not taught?
Well, yes. Of course, there is the right way. You know, you should have actually not just taught, you should have trained. And you know, training, it takes a lot of time, repetitive action. You know, it has got seasons when you overlook the error because you're training. And after you've trained and you know that somebody knows, then now it becomes a mistake. But you see, for most people, the minute the child does something, it's for discipline. But they need to always stop and ask, have I trained them? You know, and training is not showing them once. You know, training takes time. You know, training takes involvement. Before you start calling it rebellion, are you sure that the child or the young person knows what the infraction is? You know, but granted, a child may not have been trained. And now they are doing something that is totally off.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There is a place for discipline. My position remains that somebody who you have not taught, you have to pause and teach them. Now, you might not have the luxury of several sessions and years of training, but you quickly explain why this thing is wrong and what it will lead to. And maybe give some leeway once, twice, and then they say the minute this thing happens a third time, this is what is going to happen. So that even when you're meting out tough discipline, it is not abrupt, it is not unexpected, and the person being disciplined knows, I have overstepped. I mean, I have 3 warnings, I have blown 2, so they know for sure I do it next. Tunapatana.
What about those parents, Tabitha, who keep issuing threats, but they never actually get to do anything about it? It's just one.
You see, they are training the wrong thing. Yeah, they are actually training that they are just a gong, and you know they can shout and yell, but they'll do nothing. And by the way, the best training is without volume and shouting. You know, and that's, if we go back to the schools, Jemo, you find that most of our schools, the discipline measures are very rough.
Yes.
You know, the discipline master is yelling and shouting and don't do this, you know. So that is not correct, you know, because it actually hampers how the other person can hear and understand and feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, so threats fall in that category, where you're just preparing somebody to rebel. You know, they know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. But Pastor Barnabas, what do you think the role of the man is in this whole conversation? You know, because the man is supposed to be that stabilizing factor in the family. And I think the man has a big role, but what is that role when it comes to the discipline of our children?
Thank you, Jemo. Just before I jump into that, I like what Tabitha was saying. Again, it's important to don't just issue threats. Kids are very bright. They will realize it's just threat, so it doesn't change their behavior. But also, I think it's important also to know, why is a child behaving the way they are behaving. So sometimes that behavior may be as a result of other things. So it's good to, again, be able to to try to understand what could be happening in this child. And so I like the thing of not just being issuing threats, but being able to want to teach and to train the child. When it comes to who should do that, you know, the scriptures are very clear in Proverbs 13:24. It says that whoever spares the rod, you know, whoever spares the rod hates the child, and but the one who loves the child is careful. He says he's careful to discipline them. Now, again, when you look at the word, in fact, many times in Proverbs 13, they use the rod, or in Proverbs, really, they use the rod in terms of discipline. Now, the rod was an instrument of discipline, but also, if you look at the Bible understanding of the word, the rod is also a symbol of authority.
Yes.
And the person who carries that authority in the home is the father. Now, it's very interesting that most of us are saying it's our mothers who discipline us. That should be the role of the father. The father is a symbol of authority. So the rod is actually the role and the authority that the father has. And that's why that's where placed. In fact, if you read the Proverbs, it's a father instructing the son.
Yeah.
Again, discipline comes from instruction. Is the father instructing the son? In fact, Jemo, somebody said, why do you think God gave us a deep voice? You know, your voice, just your voice. You know, your wife can say many things, but your voice, it carries also that authority.
That is so true, Pastor Barnabas. Sometimes in my home, you know, my wife keeps talking about Izo Vyombo Zioshwe. It's just a song. You know, everybody is just seated comfortably doing what they want to do. The moment I say Izo Vyombo zimesemekana Zioshwe, that's the end of it.
Zimesemekana.
Yes. The mom is saying, wash the, yeah. The mom is saying wash the vyombos and you're ignoring her. This is my wife, man. She has authority in this house. Mama amesema wash the vyombo. Get to it. Things happen. Yes. Like magic.
Yes. Yeah.
So I like
and Jemo is not shouting. It's not shouting. It's just that firm voice.
Yes.
Yes.
That is so true. That is so true. I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions this morning, to be a part of this conversation. It's all about discipline. How do we discipline our children? Because it's our responsibility. If you're having any challenges in this area, that's why we're having these conversations. We are helping one another. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. There's a very interesting question here. A gentleman is asking, when do you start the discipline? And how does it graduate? Because the same discipline you would give a 2-year-old is not the same discipline you can give a 10-year-old. So at what point do you start this discipline, and how do you progress? Tabitha?
All right. For us mothers, we start when they're in the stomach, eh? Somebody sits badly and kicks you, you hit that leg so that it moves, eh? And then when they come out, I mean, discipline, it is really lifelong. You know, when life begins, really discipline begins, you know, from, you know, what we take in and when we sleep, you know, like that. Eh? So informally, it begins that way. And when the child comes, you know, is born, and now they start nursing, you know, they have no teeth, but they'll bite you.
Yeah.
You know, again, you have to let them know you can't keep doing that. You know, so it's the same thing that just keeps going, yeah? But now out here, you know, for the purposes of our discussion, one of the great parenting trainers, Dr. Stanley Mukolwe, you know, really has a wonderful program. And he told us that, you know, before the child can move to be independent, there are certain instructions the children must know.
Yeah.
You know, so that when they begin to crawl and get away from you, they must know when you say no, it means no. You know, and they must know when you speak, they stop and listen. Yeah. So it begins that early. It could be, 6 months, you know, when the child begins now to crawl and to get away, you need to be able to say stop, and they stop. You need to be able to look at them, that look, and they know if I go beyond that look, something is coming that will not be very pleasant. You know, so there's that age, you know, and all the way, you know, up to 7, there is a style. When they begin to get into preteen, you know, and that's where many parents lose it. Okay, many parents lose it in the cradle, because then they don't want to inflict any pain, because they are saying, the child doesn't know anything, this child is innocent. No, you know, the human heart is desperately wicked.
Yes.
We are born in sin, so don't be cheated. Somebody is biting you and they don't know they are biting you. You know, they need to be helped.
Yeah.
You know, but now, when they get, let's say, into preteen, many parents begin to fear the body is changing and, oh my goodness, they're big now. What I would want parents to know is that the human brain actually is fully developed at 25. That is when the frontal lobes are fully functioning, and that is for decision making.
Yeah.
And judgment. So we even when your child has broken their voice and they're looking, I don't know how.
Yes.
Don't be intimidated by that body, and don't say, now I can't be too firm. You know, I need to give them their space. You know, they are big people. They are not. Actually, that is where we lose it. So we are going to discipline. You know, those of us of older time, people were beaten even into their 20s. We are not saying you do that, but what my caution to parents is to stop thinking that a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old is too big for you to assert your authority. Because when you do that, then the child comes out to me in school or to church or to work, they have never learned to respect anybody. They have always learned to have their way. And now they, actually you've taught them rebellion. And they can only survive around you. Now, when they go out to school, they are a problem. They go to church, they are a problem. They go to work, they cannot keep a job. So we don't want to belabor, Percy, we don't want to belabor the how, because there we can fight as Kenyans, even as Christians. So we can fight about the road, we can fight, oh, how are you talking? But let's just know that somebody must understand that living with other people means respecting boundaries and respecting other people. And those things are taught at home. You don't respect your mommy and daddy, you're not going to respect any other authority, even God.
I love what you've shared, Tabitha, because somebody was asking exactly that whole question of teenagers are now big and I'm a single mother. How do I instill discipline? I think you've handled that well. But there's another angle you've brought in, which I want to use to bring in this question, Pastor Barnabas. Angela is saying, my take is that parents also have lost respect for the teachers. It's quite easy to find a parent confronting a teacher in front of the children or speaking derogatory words about their teacher in the presence of their child. And so we are teaching our children these as well. Pastor, what do you have to say concerning that?
Thank you. And I think Tabitha has put it very, very right. Discipline like charity must begin at home. Yeah. Children learn to respect from the home. So if you don't train and instruct and teach them how to discipline, how to respect authority, then they will be disrespectful even in the school. Now, you as a parent coming and reinforcing that in front of the teacher, you have completely destroyed that teacher, because now he has no moral right to discipline your child. I think as parents, we have to realize this. I think they say this, it takes a whole village to raise a child in Africa. And so the village here, we may not have the traditional village, but the village we have here is you as a parent, the teacher in school, the Sunday school teacher in church. If your kids are involved in some music or sports, the coach that is coaching them, befriend those people, team up with them, because sometimes as parents we have blind spots. I may think my children are angels until Jemo tells me, your son. So now I need to listen to that as well, and so be able to then discipline from that space. So we need to work as a team. And that's very, very important. I need to find out from the teacher. I need to be a good friend to the youth pastor or the children's church pastor. I need to be a good friend to the coach or the music teacher, so that I am then getting all a 360-degree input about my child. And so together we are disciplining the child and raising up the child to be a respectable person. I know there's a lady who talked earlier, a single mom. And then going back to what Tabitha said, discipline begins at in those early years when she's in the womb and is biting. That one is mainly the mother who is disciplining. There's a lot of nurturing taking place there. But as time comes, when they get to their teenagehood, a man's role, a man's presence is very, very, especially if it's a boy, it's very, very key. And so for a single mom, you can also partner with maybe the boys coach if he plays soccer, or the youth pastor, or the teacher in school, a male teacher, that can also help you in just instilling discipline and understanding and raising up that young teenager.
Okay. I remember back in the day for us, it would be disaster if your parent was called to school. Oh my goodness. You would rather the teacher I will do whatever punishment you want me to do. Whatever, just don't call my mom or my dad to school, because it would be double tragedy. The teacher would punish you and your parent would take you home. Wewe ndio unafanya niitwe shule. Mimi nangangana huku nje kutafuta pesa ya fees na unataka nikuje shule. Oh my goodness. That was a statement none of us wanted to hear, because your parents would act a movie on you without editing anything out. And so when I see today parents going to school to confront teachers and their children are in their presence, I'm thinking, man, we need help. We need help. I have a very radical thought here from my good friend Otieno. I love Otieno. Otieno always makes me think about things from a different perspective. I'll share this with you to find out what you think about it, and then we can share our final thoughts as we wrap up the show for today. 20316 is the SMS line. Your feedback is also welcome. WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Parenting Tuesday. We're just about to wrap things up this morning, but thank you so much for all the comments coming in. There's a particular comment here. My guest this morning, Pastor Barnabas Achoki, who's a family coach and marriage coach, and also Tabitha Ogango, educationist, teacher, passionate about education and family. There's a very interesting thought here from Otieno. I want to find out what both of you think about it, and then you can give your final remarks. Otieno says, I agree with your panelists. The road is the right tool in the right hands. However, a teacher is not the appropriate hand for the road in school. Who then should discipline the wayward children in high schools specifically? Obviously, it should be the law, policemen and policewomen. Think about it. We are preparing these children for the real world where the cops are the custodians of discipline. Why not introduce them to police early in high school? Teachers should focus on teaching. Introduce male and female police monitors in schools and let them handle the discipline aspect. Separate the role of discipline and teaching. Do you agree with Otieno, Tabitha?
Hey, no. In fact,
I think that's the mother.
Oh my goodness.
That's the mother in you speaking.
No. By the way, if you ask my children, I am the mother. Now listen, even the whole idea of children who even ban schools. Being, now they can never go back to school again. They have a criminal record for life. That is the direction now. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to be very careful because children are in their formative years. Yeah. And we do not want to forget that they are in their formative years. And we need to be there as parents, as society, as church, as government to ensure that our children will make it into adulthood and become what God intended them to be. We cannot partner with those who want to kill their destinies just because they made a mistake. So for me, punishing a teenager in a manner that is conclusive is extremely unfair. That person is going to be around until 70, 80. What do you want them to do?
Very true. Yes. Pastor Barnabas, what do you think? Do you agree?
I couldn't agree more with Tabitha. You see, James, it's like a 2-year-old spanking and disciplining a 2-year-old for dropping a cup or a glass. You see, that's the age where they are at here. So it's just that's the age. The expectation of a 2-year-old is different from the expectation of a 12-year-old. And so police are for us adults. When we misbehave, we can be handled by the police, but not our children, please. No. They are not our children. And again, as I said earlier, there are a lot of underlying issues. So it's not just a criminal thing. There could be other things. And truth be said, even our correctional services, you talk about the police and the prison. How many people have gone to prison and come out was thugs?
Yeah, very many.
Because even our correction services are not that. They're not correctional. They are more of actually harden you criminal ways.
Yes.
So our approach will be one of correction. Yes.
Okay. Tabitha, what are your closing remarks even as we wrap up our conversation today? Tabitha, are you there? Ama, the rapture has happened.
I mean, this should take 3 shows.
Okay.
But let me say that Proverbs 19:18 tells us to discipline our children so that we are not party to their death. Okay? And so I just want to tell parents, indiscipline is a killer. Indiscipline is going to kill your children's destiny, is going to kill what they were meant to be here for. So let's not take indiscipline lightly.
Yes.
Because discipline is now that other bit that actually overrides even that A that they are going to get. Pastor Achoki also said this already. It takes a village to raise a child. Parents, who is your village? You must have people around your children who can help you walk that journey. Because I'm a woman, let me say this, to women who are raising children alone. Do not be intimidated. And fathers, I love you and I would want you to do what God has asked you to do. But I remember in the Bible when village life ceased, Deborah arose, a mother, and rescued the generation.
Yes.
So I would just want to say, because I hear many women saying, my husband is not, I don't have a husband, let's get over that and know that indiscipline is a killer. And we must make sure our children will attain everything God intended for them by making sure that they are disciplined.
Awesome. Pastor Choki, closing remarks?
Yes, Proverbs 13:24 says, whoever spares the rod hates the child. But the one who loves their children is careful, and the one to underline there is careful to discipline them.
Yes.
And time you go to it, as I just said in Proverbs 23 and verse 13, do not withhold the discipline from a child. If you punish them with a rod, they will not die.
Right.
So for me, it's a balanced approach. Let's not be two extremes. I know most of us are coming from an extreme where it bordered on child abuse.
Yeah.
And so now we have swung to the other abuse where we are so permissive and have allowed our children to rule us. And are thus raising up people who will be a problem in the society.
Yes.
So the balance here is key, where we bring in the right discipline, and how we do it, I think, is what matters. And that discipline we should carefully discipline them, and our attitude as parents in discipline, especially as fathers. The Bible says in Ephesians 6:4, do not exasperate your children. Yes. So that discipline should not be one to kill. It should be one to give life.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Pastor Barnabas and Tabitha, for being part of our panel this morning. I remember one time as we finished, a friend of mine called me and said, Pastor, I want you to take me somewhere. And so we went over to his parents' house, because I'd been to the parents' house before. And then he went in, said hi to his mom, and came back to the sitting room I was seated. And he said, Pastor, do me a favor. Don't let my mom come out of this house. Stand at the door. This is a trusted friend, so I knew he was not about to do anything crazy. But he said, ensure my mom doesn't come out. He went to his car. He called his younger brother outside. His younger brother was a big guy, he's not like a teenager. He's past his 20s, in his mid-20s. He went to the car and he came with a whip. So I'm standing there, I'm seeing him coming through the gate with a whip. And boy, did he whip his brother. What? This young man was wailing for his dear life. The mom tried to come out. I said, Mom, let what needs to happen, happen. And the young man said, Mom, this is what you should have done many, many years ago, but you failed to do. So I'm doing it for you, because I'm not going to come here at night again because you called that my brother is holding a knife to your throat. This ends today. So he finished that and he gave the young man fare. Kamwambia uende Geshagi. If I see you in Nairobi, you will end up in prison. Do you know that was the turning point of that young man's life? His life has never been the same again. Discipline brought him back to the straight and narrow. So parents, we have a job to do. Let's do it. Let's not wait for our children to do our job for us. Let's do it, and let's do it well. That's all the time we have for our program this morning. I hope the conversation has been beneficial to you. We'll hook up again next week on another Parenting Tuesday.
This and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.